Aha is dying is a very common theory in the Honkai Star Rail community. Contaminated by the veracity and seeking out abundance power to cling to life, the Joy Seeker is seeking to set someone else as the permanent Aeon, since they themselves are doomed to fall. A hypothesis that makes sense at a glance, but has a fatal flaw in being a deviation from the concept of elation, and the party to the end of the world mantra, because Aha wouldn't act in preparation for their future demise. That is the opposite of what Laughing at the Void is meant to represent. Even in the Evanescia trailer, we see people having fun up until the moment of their doom, where the meteorite would cause an apocalypse. That is the mindset of elation when it comes to inevitable death. So what is going on here, and what is the deal with Aha and Ouroboros? Well, me being the contrarian that I am, did some research, and in my findings I can foresee a terrifying reality that involves Ouroboros, Asat Pramad, Stephen Lloyd, and what we found in the Torn Scroll. Because rather than Aha infected with veracity, I think Ouroboros is contaminated with elation. Because this is the terror of the Torn Scroll revealed. Okay, so as we know, the remains of Ouroboros are in plain Arcadia, and it has been hinted that the Torn Scroll, or the Land of Sneering Gods, are precisely where these remains are. I mean, come on. Ashvale says this looks familiar, his arm reacted to the place, and the entire realm is a vortex surrounded by teeth.
However, the thing that slumbers in the deep here does look awfully familiar. Simply removing the nail can cause it to stir and resonate with the fragment and fissure. Had I not kept it under control at that time, the fight would have ended with all of us buried in that bottomless abyss.
It has something to do with the veracity. But what has had me stumped for the longest time is this trailblazer acting all creepy and beckoning us to go further towards the center of the vortex, and claiming to be us or our ego.
I am you, and you are me. Come, embrace this primordial joy. In exchange for a boarding pass on the express toward the end.
But regardless of how the creepy laughs and smiles look elation-coded, Aha isn't a creepy Aeon that needs to bait people in. Aha is a puppet master with the power of reality manipulation. They are the farthest thing from needing to bait people. And we've already seen that abundance can masquerade as elation, and how Asat Pramad, a Lord Ravager of the Destruction, can use Imagenesis, but as we've seen from these abominations, they always end up in something either horrifying or blatantly malicious. A far cry from anything we've seen from the Joy Seeker. But there is one Aeon that would have the behavioral pattern of baiting in potential prey, and that would be Ouroboros. Hear me out. You see, we are already well aware that this Aeon ascended from an ancient race that predates the Aeons themselves, called Leviathans. And these monsters are known for consuming the cosmos itself, with Ouroboros being called the Drinker of Worlds. And the word Leviathan refers to an absolutely massive sea creature or dragon, both of which would exist mainly in deep sea conditions, which are environments that promote deep sea gigantism. Hence why things like giant crabs and megalodons exist. Well, not so much megalodons anymore, but the point is, Leviathans hang out in the deep sea, and so do anglerfish, a deep sea fish known for having a bioluminescent lure on its head that is also depicted as a giant fish, though in reality wasn't really that big. So we know that deep sea fish use bait in order to catch prey due to low visibility because no sun can reach down in the deep sea that far, and whales, which are modern day Leviathans, lure in prey as well, mainly orcas, that technically count as dolphins, but they're definitely Leviathan class, I'd say. So Nova, enough with the marine biology lesson. What does this have to do with a giant mythical monster that eats planets and solar systems? Well, what if I told you that in order to train for operating in space, astronauts train underwater? water. So in this case, space and the ocean go hand in hand in more ways than having very hungry Leviathans swimming around eating everything. Because taking this all into account, of course Ouroboros would try to bait in someone to consume them. That should be well within their ability to do. Not to mention, bait is kind of part of this Aeon's design. Odds are this seductive lady part of Ouroboros isn't the main body. That's the bait, and the real thing is the massive mouths and teeth below the female figure. Which is unsettling to think about, but you can't unsee it either, can you? And the reason why they would target us is explained through how they are doing this. You see, Kuchipa says that the remains of Ouroboros are in plain Arcadia, indicating that the Aeon has already fallen. And I think she would be correct, but this just makes things even worse. Because according to this unassuming book on Wubbaboos, when Leviathans die, their life force becomes astral spirits. And these are wandering spirits without a will that are especially attracted to the nameless due to how free we are to travel around the cosmos.
Life, in exchange for a boarding pass on the Express toward the end.
And these spirits attempt to possess people and take over their bodies, turning them into mindless husks, or just killing them on the spot. Either way, they are very much fatal. Wubbaboos are distant relatives of these spirits that are attracted to human emotions, but not nearly as dangerous. So an astral spirit spawned from the corpse of a Leviathan, trying to lure us in due to being a nameless, and using joy as bait due to the strong emotion of joy being abundant on plain Arcadia. See how that all just makes perfect sense? Ouroboros is dead themselves, but the remains of them are still trying to kill people. But here is where things get worse, and also more interesting, which comes with good news and bad news. So let's start with the good news, because here is why I think we saw Stephen Lloyd in the Anti-Destruction Alliance trailer.
Don't worry. I'll inform the Intelligentsia Guild about the Leviathan research.
Because this kid attempted to create Leviathan bait, but luckily failed and only attracted trotters, so odds are this kid is knowledgeable about Leviathans as well, and he might just be able to get some info for us on how to handle the remains of Ouroboros. Not to mention that he's also a gamer, so Silverwolf might just have a new favorite genius. Yes, I am claiming here and now that this is where Stephen Lloyd enters the story. There is no other reason for why Ron May references his Leviathan research than to tease this plot point. Odds are the Genius Society is already ahead of us and already are well aware that dead Ouroboros is in plain Arcadia. On a side note, we also know that Ron May is already interested in the Tazironth remains in Luocha's coffin, and now she most likely knows about the whereabouts of another dead Aeon. The Ron May becoming an Aeon subplot becomes more and more concerning by the day. But here comes the bad news, because I think we can also figure out what another one of Asat Pramad's branching destruction plans are. Of course, a win for Asat Pramad would already be Lon firing at plain Arcadia, annihilating everything with a Lux arrow, Ouroboros reviving and eating plain Arcadia, or a new development, Asat Pramad simply getting his hands on the remains of the voracity. Why? Because astral spirits aren't the only reason why this situation is volatile. Because if this isn't a bad enough situation, Leviathan corpses are the main ingredient for creating antimatter legion armies, the signature weapon of Asat Pramad. And since this is just Leviathan corpses that make up these armies, can you imagine how strong the army created from an Aeon Leviathan remains would be? We would be cooked. Asat Pramad would just win. So this would be a third win condition for our Dice Head Hat Man. And I'm starting to see why he's so confident in facing so many Emanator level opponents by himself. He has a lot of win conditions. Almost every path in the cosmos is clashing in one world, and he has nothing but time. This is bad. And the IPC hiding this from the Express crew just makes all of this worse. Because Asat Pramad most likely knows it, Pearl knows it, Ashvale's got some sneaking suspicions about it, and now Kuchiba has figured it out. And now is not the time for secrets. Because what if I told you that Asat Pramad has tried this once before already, and it worked? We can assume that the Torn Scroll is somewhere within the core of Plain Arcadia, and I would argue that Asat Pramad knows about this already and is prepared to use it. Because we get some info on the first assault from the book Legends of the Demons from Beyond, where we see that Asat Pramad summoned giant towers from the ground that spawned Antimatter Legion armies, and that alone nearly doomed Plain Arcadia and forced Graphia to turn everything into the world in canvas. Meaning that we are on the verge of a massive assault, and all three of Asat Pramad's win conditions are on the table at once. Not to mention that if I am right and he is an imagine that grows stronger with the accumulation of fear, everything from Full Wish to Shuhu to the death of the Sinwish Syndicate is all playing into his hands. The clock is ticking and the Nameless don't know about it, and we are all on the chopping block. We are all still dealing with the Shuhu situation, and the real threat is right beneath our feet, and the Express crew doesn't have a clue because Pearl didn't tell us. Aha isn't dying. They are sitting back and watching with bated breath, waiting for the sparks to fly. And things are reaching a feverish pitch. Pads are clashing, the Demon Lord has returned, and their Emanator is on the scene attempting to reach level 1000. Aha is living it up, because the real winner is always the spectator. And Aha knows this. And I think Aha would let all of this happen just to see what would happen. Because this is the terror of the Torn Scroll revealed. We are not at an advantage here in Plain Arcadia. We may have Silverwolf, who is an incredibly strong ally along with Ashvale, Yao Guang, and so forth, but Asat Pramad's appearance here tells me that he is rather confident in his ability to win this. Because for those of you who don't play chess, when a really good chess player launches a strong attack, odds are you've already lost and all of your moves will just play into your opponent's hands. So we are going to need all of the help to worm our way out of this, which includes all transparency from the IPC. That I'm sure we will never get, so we might just be cooked. What do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.